just finished a great mind yoga session with someone who wanted to break her pattern of attracting and staying with partners who weren't really in alignment. They were avoidant and they were lacking integrity. So there was a misalignment between the words that they uttered and the actions that they took. And this person had come out of a divorce 2 years prior and was getting back into the dating scene and was really enjoying being in the dating scene, getting to experience bedroom intimacy and the pleasure that comes with that. But ultimately was recognizing that really what it is that she wanted wasn't getting satisfied. And that was depth of connection, intimacy, honest communication, and deep emotional connection. And really, at the heart of it was learning to trust her intuition, learning to trust that inner voice that was telling her that this person wasn't worth pursuing, and rather than ignoring that voice, actually taking action herself, trusting her intuition, knowing that what it is that she wants is more than the superficial, is more than the simple hedonistic pleasure that comes with bedroom intimacy. And really, this speaks into so many different facets of tantric teaching, so I'll try to get through them. Firstly, it came up in conversation that it's not about learning things, but more about unlearning things. That at the heart of us, our essence nature, we know how to do this thing called love. It's as natural as breathing, really. That's how I see it. But as we grow and as we engage with the world, we learn things that inhibit us from residing in our essence nature. We develop this ego construct, this narrative of who we believe ourselves to be, and we become so attached to it. Our conscious awareness becomes so attached to it because it's free to do as it wants to, that we lose sight of the fact that this narrative that we've created isn't actually who we are at our essence. It's a tool that we can utilize for our benefit to be able to navigate through the world. In recognizing that it's not actually who we are, and typically this happens because we reach a critical point of our suffering where we have this just innate knowing that something is misaligned, that something is off. And that is what calls us back to the path back to our essence nature, our path back to love. And in unlearning all of the stories, in clearing out all of the dust that sits on top of who we are at our core, we can do that. And that can be challenging to do alone because in a way it's kind of using the mind to unpick the mind, to massage out those knots. And the mind's very good at not wanting to surrender itself. So it does whatever it can to survive, essentially. This is why having guidance, someone to navigate with us and nudge us back into our essence nature, nudge us back onto the path out of the groove we've carved for ourselves that isn't serving us and it creates our suffering, can be really valuable and really important. The idea of intuition is an interesting one. So the reason intuition can be challenging is because sometimes we think what is our intuition is actually just a very, very deep samskara. It's a very deep unconscious pattern which has been ingrained into us over sometimes many, many years, which we perceive to be intuition, but is actually just slightly missing the mark. Sometimes slightly, sometimes a lot. Because they're very, very close. In tantric teaching, there are 4 layers of the word, from the most superficial to the deepest. So we have the most superficial being the language that we use to communicate. Beneath that, we have the intellect, the mind space. Below that, we have this layer of samskara, or this layer of unconscious programming. And below that still, we have essence nature, the purity of truth and the word, if you will. That's divine intellect, I'd like to say. And really, divine intellect has all of these layers to move through until it gets to this expression. And what can happen is that we perceive it to be this deepest layer, but sometimes it's this unconscious layer that comes through and sometimes gets muddled through the layers above before being expressed. And so a lot of the time what happens is when we speak, our utterances aren't actually truth. They are, they're I don't want to say lies, but they're constructs from the thinking mind, or they're impressions from the unconscious layer. They're not actually divine truths. And so what we can perceive to be as intuition can sometimes actually be something a layer different. And so it requires discernment to be able to differentiate what is intuition in this true sense that is serving us in a healthy way, or is something we perceive to be intuition, but actually is just deep-rooted unconscious patterning, which sometimes does serve us because at some point it did, and that's why it was imprinted into our computer of our mind. But oftentimes we get to a point where we recognize that programming no longer serves us, and so it then becomes an opportunity for us to rewrite that programming. And as I said, it can be difficult to do alone because we're using that same language to kind of supplant it. And this is why having what I use, tantric teachings, but also a guide who has this depth of understanding to be able to point out the differentiation and assist and guide you to be able to reprogram that at a deeper level, so that you can become empowered to recognize the actuality of your intuition, can be such a useful tool. And this is what we do in MindYoga. We recognize, we identify the mental emotional knots that are preventing you from really dropping into your essence nature and really surrendering into the full expression of love, life, and success. And so this is partly where this conversation went, is her recognizing that really what she wants isn't the superficiality of sexual connection, even though it's fun. This gets into another tantric teaching as well. It's a very quick tangent. So on the tantric path, there are 2 goals. One is worldly enjoyment, and the other is spiritual liberation. Now, in tantric teaching, you're allowed to have both. You're allowed to enjoy worldly pleasures. In fact, it's encouraged. However, beneath that, or primary to that, is the recognition of the divinity of existence. So it's God first, worldly enjoyment second. Because if you can root your existence in. It's the difference between pleasure and bliss. Between, I've forgotten the Sanskrit words now. It's left me. Mind fart. But it's the differentiation between pleasure and bliss. The mind is focused on pleasure and can't fathom the infinite deliciousness of bliss, blissful contentedness. It is our essence nature, which is what experiences the infinite, divine, contented bliss. And when we make that our primary focus, then whether life is happy and enjoyable or sorrowful and unhappy, it doesn't matter, because you can find the contented bliss irrespective of the emotionality that you're experiencing. And this is why having that as the root, as the foundation, is so important, rather than the primary focus being worldly enjoyment and pleasure, hedonism. It's not that you can't have it, it's that having it as the primary focus doesn't serve, because if you lose everything, then you don't have the foundation of contented bliss to maintain your worldly experience. And so what she recognized was, yes, the pleasure is great and having great sex is fantastic, but there's more. And this is where getting the focus on the depth of connection, the deep intimacy of being able to meet someone emotionally and mentally through intimate connection, through depth of connection, is so valuable, so important, and so much more desired. Have that as the foundation upon which to build the worldly enjoyment, the pleasure seeking, the bedroom intimacy, rather than the other way around. Because if you focus on the bedroom intimacy and then you try to find all of the layers on top, if they're not there, then the foundation, it's shaky. But if you can put that aside, knowing that it's valuable, and focus on wanting to create a connection with someone where there is depth of emotional intelligence and intellectual intelligence and emotional vulnerability. And what came up for her was the reciprocity of giving and receiving, being able to enjoy and reside in both. Then the more hedonistic elements of the relationship can thrive. And this is why I love the focus of tantric teaching. It's why it's at the heart of the MindYoga. It's why it's the heart of Sex.Prayers and what we do, because it is this timeless wisdom upon which to build the enjoyment of this human experience. And this is why I'm so passionate about sharing it with you. So if you recognize that you're also stuck in a loop, that you're wanting to break a pattern of dating the same people and falling into the same traps and repeating the same pain and suffering of relating, then, like I said to this individual, rather than trying to change the people that you're engaging with, return to the empowered essence, nature of yourself, so that you can attract the person that you're looking for, so that they magnetize towards you rather than you having to go and find them. That's not to say that you won't need to take action. I'm not saying that at all. I'll get into that in other videos, further in the tantric teachings. But if that sounds familiar to you, then I invite you to either check out the other videos where I talk more into this, or to write a little comment and say that, hey, this resonates with you, or to just go ahead and book a clarity call where we can actually start to unravel all of these knots and put you on the path to finding the love and the joy and the yumminess that you have been looking for and that your essence nature knows is your birthright. That is as available to you as the oxygen that you breathe, if you know how to get out of your own way. So I look forward to hearing from you.